So how many people out there actually know Becton Dickinson or know the name BD? Okay, so there's a few people. So for those of you that don't, we're a 120-year-old medical device company that was started in Rutherford, New Jersey. And you've probably come in contact with us, if you've ever had to give blood with our vacuum container products, if you've ever gotten an injection, or if you're a diabetic with a lot of our needles or an epidural. But we're a lot more than that. When I started at Becton Dickinson in 2011, we were doing about $7.5 billion worth of revenue. I started actually to come in and help with program management and help build that capability from an organization standpoint. And we had needles, lots of sharp pointy things. We actually manufacture over 1 billion, yes, 1 billion sharp pointy things every single year across the world. But in addition to that, we also have medical diagnostic equipment. We do a lot with reagents and the clicker, thank you. Medical device diagnostic equipment, reagents. And in 2014, as part of our journey towards moving from really a medical device supplier for a lot of smaller, lower end products, we bought a company called CareFusion, right, which moved us from an $8 billion company to a $12 billion company. And that actually got us into infusion pumps, that got us into medical device cabinets, it's called the Pyxis, and started to really broaden us from a manufacturer to now a solutions provider into a medical technology company. And from there, this year, actually, we've acquired a company called CR Bard, which further extends our reach into PICS and ports. So if anybody's had relatives on chemotherapy or things of that nature, they actually help, and it can be in your body for a long period of time and help with the administration of chemotherapy drugs. So it's one of those companies that is an amazing success story. And if you think about our tagline, and it's something that we live every day, it's about advancing the world of health. So how does automation, how does this all come to play, as we think through the story of automation and where we're trying to go and where we're trying to transform as an organization? So, we've had a lot of conversations with our internal leaders, and you can imagine, that you all are change agents, in your own right, trying to build up, a capability, a competency, and really energy inside the organization on automation, because as you think about the growth that we're going, some of it organic, some of it inorganic, we actually need automation to help us with our processes and systems. We've got multiple ERP systems, we've got many disparate processes, and we need this actually in order to start to stitch it together. And we've started a lot of pilots, and I'm going to talk today really about how we're doing that, and hopefully have a little bit of time at the end for Q&A so we can talk about how that relates to what you may be doing. Because as you can imagine, there's a lot of skepticism out there on, is this possible? What is possible? And so what we've tried to do is look at our internal processes and focus on a couple of really important areas. So from an IT strategy perspective, it's automation, it's big data, and information security. And you can start to see those three topics converging. We actually put together, now this is a bit of an eye chart, and we didn't start with this. We started with your typical swim lane maps. And I can tell you, there's no executive that ever wants to see a swim lane, right? That's a compensation impacting event, as what we say in IT. But what we tried to do is really imagine all of the processes inside of the company, because this is our hunting ground. This is how we're going to go after individual processes and how we're going to look for opportunities, because every time we bring, and the story of all of the acquisitions is important, because every time we bring an acquisition in, yeah, we buy things, we sell things, we manufacture things, but we all do it slightly different. And of course, all of us know that whatever we do in the United States, it's different in Europe, right? I mean, how many people have heard that, right? It's different in Latin America, it's different in Asia. So how do we start to look at all of this and look for technology solutions that can help us to start to really get into taking some of these routine, monotonous process steps and driving it down into the organization and starting to make it real. Because when you talk process to most executives, it's not real. They actually go into a coma, I think, in some instances. So our job is to try to imagine what's possible and to take that high-level video that you just showed, to connect it with this, and then start to connect it with the people lower in the organization that actually do the work and that can make this happen. Because a lot of this right now is about hearts and minds. And you might think, and you're not going to hear anything about technology in this presentation, although I'm the CIO of the organization, because it's actually not about technology. It's about how do we bring our process together, how do we do something different, and help people, either free up labor, improve customer satisfaction, improve customer service. And it starts with really understanding your process and how it works inside of your organization. Because without this, you don't have the context to start doing the work. And actually, you shouldn't, right? You're kind of playing houses, I would say. The next, as you start to double click into this, right? And I wanted something, and if you've ever worked with me, it's got to be real. It's got to be tangible. So we're not going to talk about kind of fluffy pie in the sky stuff. These are things that we're doing and that we're working with other leaders inside of our organization. Now you can see we picked Procure-to-Pay. Now why do we pick Procure-to-Pay? Actually, our leader in Procure-to-Pay is a big supporter. So part of our strategy as we look to this, I call it go to the light. You go where you're wanted. You don't go to the guy that's trying to push you off and say, well, we really want to work with you. We think it's pretty cool, but he's not really serious. Our leader here is serious about this and has been a fantastic partner. And how we think about it, and again, you can't read it really well, but we've got cognitive, precognitive, we've got autonomics, we've got the RPA tools, because we're not thinking necessarily there's one software solution, there's one solution out there today, right? So we're placing a number of bets. Now we're placing a bet with IPsoft, and I'll tell you they've been a fantastic partner, right? And Chayton and the guys know that I don't say anything that I don't mean, and I'll talk a little bit about that at the end. But you got to find people in these spaces who are going to be your partner, because this is a journey, and it's a hard journey because you've got to sell your internal stakeholders, you've got to work with all of these different software and solution partners, and you're trying to figure out what's going to work inside of your environment and how do you make it real. Because all of us, it's about making it real. Can I take money out, right? You can imagine, right, when we did the CareFusion deal, I had a $100 million synergy target. In every deal, you get another big synergy target. And at some point, you've exhausted many of the levers that you have, and you've got to look for something else, something extremely disruptive. So based on the last deal, we invested a significant amount here because we need automation actually to be that next generation of where we can hunt and find opportunities, not just in IT, but in the broader organization. So this is the slide that says, the next two slides are really, does it work? The answer is yes, it works. But right now, I would say the challenge that we have is scalability. So if you took a process like order to cash, which is probably one of our biggest processes, probably outside of manufacturing, it's $1 billion plus, $1.5 billion process. This has got to scale. We've done this very small, so we're running 350, 400 tickets for a very specific piece of work, right? It's guest Wi-Fi access. And this is something that we're excited about, but we're, you use the consulting buzzwords, cautiously optimistic, right? So we're cautiously optimistic, but there's a fair amount of pain to get to the gain. And this is where, we've worked in partnership with IPsoft on how do we make this scalable? Because I think that's the challenge with a lot of these solutions and what you're going to run into from an organization. Because, this is good. I can get maybe $5, $6 million of savings, but there's a lot of work that we have to do. How do I get $800 million on a $1.5 billion process? How do I start to go after those kind of numbers? Because that's when it's going to get exciting. Now, we're a ways away from that, right? But what we want to be is positioned as this technology starts to scale, and it will start to scale at some point, that we want to be in a position to be able to do something and drive this back into our organization. Because we think it's coming. I don't know if we're in the front 10% or how this starts to hit, but we want to make sure that we've got the people in the process, because I think somebody early on mentioned about working with auditors. I can tell you the audit firms have no clue, right, on what the implications are from this, right? And if there's anybody from Deloitte, KPMG, E&Y, I'd be more than happy to talk to you, because there's a lot of work that we've actually had to do with our firm just to bring them up to speed to understand, how this is going to work. So all of you guys, if you haven't started it and you're going down an automation path, get internal audit involved, right? Get those conversations now, because as you start letting out robots, they're going to start having challenges. And you need to understand what is your control mechanism on how you're going to manage this, how you're going to work back with your process organizations. So again, this is a first one. We're starting to do others with other tools. It's working. We see a huge opportunity here, and we think there's more that we're going to do, and we're definitely excited about it. We're excited about 3.0. Again, challenges. I think we talked about some of these. There's more than this. Again, getting alignment within the organization. I'm a big proponent of making sure that anything technology related is business driven. Technology by itself fails. I've done so many SAP implementations, Oracle, whatever. If IT is driving it in front without the business support, it's not going to work. It's the same. It's going to be the same with this. Whether it's your end-to-end process owner, whether it's a business unit leader, you've got to make sure that you're connected, right? Don't just make this an IT project. Getting the buzz. We are not good in IT and marketing. I know that's probably a surprise, but we're not. And we need, and this is something that we're looking at, is we need professional help to tell the story, because there's a huge story inside of what we're trying to do, and we need to make sure the organization understands, and how do we connect, right? Emotionally, intellectually. You need to make sure you're trained. Well, it's a robot, right? Doesn't it just work out of the box? How does that? You got to spend some time there, and then the insidious undercurrent in every organization, master data. Is there anybody here that's got perfect master data? If there is, I want to talk to you after the meeting, right? I'd like some help. I'm rich. I'm from Becton Dickinson, and I have a master data problem, right? So again, this is a big deal in order to make this work. And you have to know these things coming in. And then I would say is there's going to be antibodies at all levels, because there's a lot of people that actually don't want to see this work. They're going to be in your middle management. They're going to be some in senior management. This is change, and this scares people. And so how do you make sure that you start to inoculate, indoctrinate, and get the organization behind this, and that it's not just about taking cost out. It's also about improved user experience. It's improved engagement, and that there's other things that these folks can be doing that probably would be more value to the corporation. So again, the future of Amelia to BD, we've probably scratched 0.1% of our processes in the organization with what we've done. So the future is, where do you find an entry point, and how do you extend based on going to the light inside of the organization? So it's huge, and every organization is going to be like this. It's just how do you get that journey right and make it work inside of your culture, inside of the relationships that you have. And obviously, one of the things that wasn't on there, you need senior leadership support. If your CEO, if your CFO, if your CIO, if they're not on board, this isn't going to work, right? Don't do this without the help of them.